Millions potentially living in poverty. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I have my stein of coffee and I thought we'd have a look at this article from the ABC discussing the prospect of millions of Australians living in poverty and home ownership out of the reach of a lot of people. Now, it's an odd situation we're living in now, isn't it? We're hearing the property bulls constantly say, now's the time to buy. First homeowners are jumping in on the market now. And then we're seeing, foreign investment decline significantly. And if you just look at the, Chinese investors, a big proportion of that are lower value than some of the other nations. So I would argue it has a disproportionate impact on the real estate sector that may be felt by a lot of people. So that is, I'd argue, going to have an impact on housing costs. So let's have a look at this. Maybe, if we get a decline in property, it may be affordable to people over the long term. But our government, everyone it seems, doesn't want that because so many people have so much of their wealth tied up in property. It's the Australian way, it really is. And whether it's right or wrong, it's just become the de facto means that a lot of people have used to build their wealth. It's an easy way for you to negate the huge amounts of tax that the government forces you to pay. That's the thing. Because everyone who says, everyone has to pay their fair share, it's kind of rubbish. We're all forced to pay it, guys. No one voluntarily pays extra. Come on, that's a bit of a joke. So let's have a look at this, guys, and see, discuss what the prospects are. So home ownership has been out of reach for many younger Australians for years now. But new research paints a disturbing picture of how the pandemic may exacerbate this problem. Roughly half of all households aged under 60 will reside in the private rental sector by 2040, explained report author Professor Terry Burke. The report, Australian Home Ownership, Past Reflections, Future Directions, undertaken by researchers from Swinburne University of Technology, examined the growth of home ownership and its dominance in Australia after World War II. They found that while Australia's overall home ownership rate appears to have held up well, 68% in 76 and 67% in 2016, the rate is projected to decline to around 63% for all households by 2040. Much of the pain, though, will be felt by the 25 to 55 age bracket, where just 49% of households will either own outright or be paying off their home in 2040, and that means 51% will still be renting. So housing downturn won't help. So even if we have so here's house prices year-on-year percent change, and they're predicting an 8% decline. Not even an 8% decline. We'll have to see, guys. This is the 2021 forecast. Sorry. Yeah, so we'll get an 8% decline and then a decline the year after that. So they're not depicting or not arguing for the drastic declines that some economists are putting forward. Is that accounting for the decline in foreign investment? I wonder. So ANZ expects an average decline of 10%. What if it was 30%? What if we had a 30% decline in housing? Would that make housing more affordable? I suspect it might. That $700,000 house that's declined, that will be a big saving, guys. Or the $1 million house will suddenly become a $700,000 house, which is now, according to some property bulls and spruikers, which is an entry-level house. I don't understand these things. I'm just a hick from Brisbane. So prices, we expect to fall about 10% over the next year or so, ANZ senior economist Felicity Emmett said. Logic would suggest this may provide another window of opportunity for first home buyers to enter the market. Unfortunately, the report suggests the opposite may be true. An important finding in the present pandemic context, Professor Burke noted, was that crises such as the GFC that produced major falls in dwelling prices in many countries, less so in Australia, did not create a return to home ownership. The research points to weakened household income and purchases being outbid by investors for available finance as reasons for a reduction in housing affordability despite large falls in house prices. Ms. Emmett agreed with that analysis. Okay, but what if the investors are the ones that are forced to sell because they are in breach of their mortgages? What if now in a world where we've got rent strike? And Australia is a bit different to the US as well. We can't send jingle mail back. We're stuck with that debt. So what we're going to see is a very sharp drop in household income in the second quarter, and that's going to really impact people's ability and willingness to commit to buying or building a new home. The Grattan Institute's Household Finance Program Director, Brendan Coates, has done extensive research on housing affordability. He also accepts it is going to be much harder for younger Australians to get onto the property ladder. Lower house prices because of a recession will mean some people will certainly find their way into the property market whose incomes are not affected. So are civil servants. So that's why we'll see property prices in Canberra may not take as much a hit as other parts of the nation. We'll see. Let's watch that over the next year or so, guys. We'll see. So, lower house prices because of recession will mean some people will certainly find their way. And while house prices are lower, their incomes are also lower as well, Mr. Coates explained. Well, I mean, does that really matter? Wage growth is non-existent. Interest rates are so low. If houses drop 20-30%, you've got a deposit saved. I guess the thing is people who are secure are going to take advantage of this situation. Do you jump now or do you wait a bit longer? It's anyone's game. And it depends on, if you lose money on a house, does it matter if it's going to be your forever home? Because, it's not in some ways, a house that you live in shouldn't be seen as an investment. It's a necessity. It's a purchase that you've made. And sure, if you want to borrow against it to buy other things, all more power to you. But there's a risk element to that. Sure, you can sell it when you're old and then downgrade, but then you've got to pay stamp duty. You've got to pay taxes, all these other costs associated with it. Whereas if you've got a house that you can adapt to age in place, that's another option. I think we'll see more multi-generational living, more people living together like they do in other parts of the world. The luxuries that we've had with such a large country, but such high density living on the coast, I think is going to change the way we live over the next 50 years. So, and that's particularly the case when the pandemic recession is largely hitting younger and lower income Australians who work in the kinds of professions that have been hit by the shutdown. And here's the big point. Here's the big issue. And this is why I'm frustrated with super. Super is taking a portion of people's money and building it to, have this pool of cash. Sure, you get taxed at it lower, but you get taxed at it when you take it out. Wouldn't it be better if people had the ability to just keep all their own money and make their own investment decisions, maybe pay off their mortgage in 15 years and not 30 years? Chuck that extra, 9% or 12% off your home loan every year. How much money would that save people? And how much additional security will that give them? Because here's the thing. This is what they're going to be bringing up. There's a big difference in quality of life from someone who is on the pension and is renting compared to someone who's on the pension and has their own home. There's a big difference. That's that extra monthly, weekly cost you don't need to worry about. So aside from not being able to call a place your own, the big fear among researchers is the potential for vast numbers of Australians to experience poverty or financial hardship later in life while renting. Research from the Grattan Institute shows 40% of those renting in retirement experience poverty. We know that those who don't own their own homes are at much greater risk of financial hardship or poverty in retirement, Brendan Coates says. The reason for this is that if you don't own your own home and you are still paying rent, without much income coming in, your budget will be squeezed. Professor Burke is imploring Australians currently between the ages of 25 and 55 to focus on building their superannuation nest egg. Try to maximise your superannuation because you're going to be in trouble if you're a private renter in retirement. Or buy a cheap home. Buy a cheap home. He's also calling on the government to increase Newstart if it resumes that title and to lift rental assistance. He told the ABC without further government support, a generation would endure poverty in the final years of their life. As more and more people retire or leave the workforce in older age without adequate income support, there's going to be an enormous poverty, Professor Berg told PM. It casts questions into what sort of housing society we want. What sort of a housing society we want. Well, yes, I mean, there are lots of people that... Here's the thing, if you build up enough wealth, maybe if you've been strategic with your investments and you get dividend incomes and then you can use that to pay your rent, that's good. But what if a disaster like this happens and all your income sources disappear? You know, it comes down to planning. It comes down to planning. But property is very high at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see how if the argument here is correct, that even a big fall in property price won't allow people to jump on the ladder. I wouldn't consider 10% a big fall. Would you consider 10% a big fall? You know, a 10% shift, sure, over a year. But we've been having, you know, all the property bulls have been saying property's been going up by 1% a month. It's ludicrous. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, everyone. What are your plans for retirement? You know, are you in this age bracket? What are you doing? Are you still renting? Are you gonna? I know there's a whole movement of people who want to avoid rent because houses they see as just a cost that you sink money into. And well, yes, someone who owns a 100-year-old house, it is a cost, and you sink a lot of money into it. We'll have to see, everyone. I'm a bit up in the air about it. I'm not sure that the 10% declines they're predicting are accurate. I think the drop in foreign investment is going to be bigger than they see. I think we won't really be able to make any forecasts until we see the real impact of unemployment. Right now we've got 25% underemployment and unemployment. Until we see how people cope when banks stop being all nice and friendly and step back from giving everyone holidays. Then we'll start seeing the impact. As always, guys, let me know your thoughts, opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan, please support us via YouTube or Patreon, or you can use our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can use Gold Pass with the Perth Mint. You can also buy our merch from HeiseSays or support us via PayPal. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.